Money FM 89.3, the best of the afternoon update.
Money FM 89.3, you're with me, Lynn Lee, on the afternoon update. Now, facilities management, it is a big topic that affects us all every day in ways most of us take for granted or are unaware of, and I like to think of facilities management as perhaps the secret driving force behind many businesses. And I mean, the range of support activities provided by facilities managers to ensure that everyone in our place of work can effectively perform our duties and carry out core business activities, right? In fact, if you think about it, we come into contact with the work of facilities managers every day. Things like your office layout, equipment, or environment. And what about the office lighting, temperature, noise, grounds, and your parking space, even the train on which you travel to work this morning, to that functioning lift which takes you up to your office, comfortable air-conditioned one. So as businesses evolve, the demand for seamless facility management and home services has never been greater. Companies are looking for smarter, more efficient ways to manage their spaces, while individuals are seeking convenience without compromising quality. Today, I'm really excited to find out more about the trends in the facilities management industry. My guests are from one of Singapore's fastest growing companies, and the company not only provides facilities management to their corporate clients, but also services such as office front of house staffing and on-demand home services for residential owners. Joining us today are Daniel Thong, founder and CEO of Nimbus.
Hi, thanks for having me here.
Hello, Daniel, and Fareed Mustakin, product lead and director of the company. Hello, Fareed. Now, you are here to share more about Nimbus's journey, and your approach to technology and service excellence, and what's next for the company. So, welcome, gentlemen. Great to have you here in the Money FM 89.3 studio with me this afternoon. So, first off, as I mentioned to my producer earlier today, I have a lot of respect for people who start up their own business. And I understand that, Daniel, you founded Nimbus in 2017 as an online platform connecting consumers to freelance cleaners, plumbers, and electricians. So how did it evolve into the company that it is today?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we started out as a simple online marketplace, and we quickly realized that fulfilling the service in a way that is good in quality as well as the standards that officers need to be productive requires us to take control of some of the core categories that are most important in facilities such as cleaning, handyman, and that led us to a path actually of directly employing these janitors and technicians into our company directly, and then using technology as more of an enabler of this service delivery instead of a pure, simple gig platform. So that's how we evolved across the years.
So from cleaning, home services, to facilities management, how did that happen?
Yeah, we started out actually in the office category, the segment that I think was the most fastest growing in 2017. This was just at the advent of the co-working boom, where we saw lots of offices evolving from the cubicle look and feel into business owners thinking of the offices as a modern campus, a place where people can have work-life integration, and therefore needed a facility vendor that can provide them with more than just one category of service. And for us, it was a great opportunity to provide more than just a cleaning service, but like you mentioned, front of house service, pest control, and all the soft services that goes into running your space, including the pantry lady, the event support staff. Wow. And that was how we started out, originally as an office integrated facilities vendor. And that's kind of like the trend that catched on towards.
Wow. And I understand you've built a first of its kind app that not only enhances customer convenience, but also uplifts blue collar workers by improving their wages and work flexibility through innovation. Fareed, I know you're the tech guy, so tell us more about this app.
Yeah, so the technology that we have, we ensure that the workers are fairly assigned jobs based on the location, skill level, and their availability, maximizing their earning potential. And also by optimizing operations, we reduce inefficiencies and pass the benefits on to our workers in the form of competitive wages and performance incentives.
So, did you build the app?
Yeah, we do have a technology team that we work together to build the app for our frontline workers.
Okay, how do you think it has changed the way your customers and workers interact?
So Nimbus Homes, our consumer app, is probably more front-facing. It's an on-demand, mobile-first solution where in the past, where you have to go through a classifieds or you have to ask people for a word of mouth recommendation, we make it easy for you to get connected to a cleaner, a housekeeper, service provider through our mobile app Nimbus Homes, which allows people to, with a click of a button, get someone on demand at the nearest available slot, or to rebook someone at their earliest convenience without the need for, like a lot of coordination.
Okay.
So that's kind of like the mobile revolution that we were also latching on.
Okay, so it's more for the consumer business line. What about facilities management? What are the trends in this space?
Yeah, for commercial clients, I think the trends are more towards a lot more automation. Robotic is a big thing. I think people have seen lots of cleaning robots helping out in their facilities as well. And it's not to replace humans, but really because there's just a shortage of frontline workers in Singapore because of our aging population, and it needs to be supplemented with more automations. Beyond robots, you're also looking at IoT sensors. Some people may not notice that, but I think increasingly we will see in most toilets there will be ammonia sensors, there are bin sensors, there are things that helps the facility manager to track what is going on in the space and what needs replenishing fast, so that maintenance is more preventive rather than reactive.
Okay, so Fareed, when you look at technology, how do you think about it? What goes through your mind when you think about what to refine and how to make your solutions better?
So I think first of all, user experience is very key. Yeah, we need to make sure that the user experience of our products are actually a lot more customer-centric. But beyond just that, I think we also think about how it can actually help our operational efficiency. So when we think about building a product, we think about how the data can actually help the service itself, because ultimately with the data that we capture, we can actually provide a better service experience to the customer.
And how is technology changing the world of facilities management?
So I think we do see a trend of service provider adopting things like IoT, but I do think that it is key to actually use the data smartly. So there are often times that we capture data, but the data may not actually provide the end value to the customer. So more often than not, when we design technology, we have to think about the end user in mind. And I think at Nimbus, we always put the heart of the customers at the forefront when we build our technology.
Okay, are you able to name drop a little and tell us who are your customers and the kind of services you provide to them?
So I think primarily in the commercial sector, we service a lot of tech companies, a lot of co-working spaces, and a lot of high-end offices in the CBD. So most of the tech names that you would hear of in the S&P 500 would be some of our corporate clients. And for our residential apps, I think we have a large consumer base in the tens of thousands, and I think increasingly home customers would want a part-time solution, a flexible solution, rather than a live-in helper, for example. And our solution works really well as part of the sharing economy as well, where you don't necessarily need to have a full-time employee and deal with all that HR headaches as well. And all this is governed by, my colleague mentioned, ratings, GPS tracking, accountability towards what is provided in your space. And I think we try to keep that experience uniform for the corporate as well as for the home clients, so that technology is really behind the scenes and what you're experiencing is the service, but underlying it, behind it, is really, like what my colleague has mentioned, a lot of data, a lot of software that helps supervisors make smarter decisions with their deployment, thoughtful replacements if a worker is sick, and as well as a user interface for the worker that helps them to navigate and do their jobs better, like, for example, how to go from point A to point B faster. How do I report a fault in a space in a manner that is easier than the status quo? And so that's kind of like the technology that I think has led us to give a good seamless experience to our customers, which enables us to earn the right to then cross-sell other services that goes into their space. And I think that's been what really has been the key to our service excellence.
Okay. And you talk about smarter technology, you're turning buildings or facilities to become smarter with, earlier you mentioned IoT and software to also efficiently monitor the real estate. What about sustainability? It's a very big thing in facilities management these days. How does that feature in the solutions that you provide?
That's right. That's a good question. I think increasingly, a carbon footprint is important, and I think commercial customers are increasingly aware of it. I think from what we see, the international schools are really leading the forefront in that, in terms of the chemicals that are being used. Firstly, they need to be child-friendly so that child will not go into contact with chemicals and then really ingest it accidentally and fall sick. So I think at the forefront of this, we see a lot of environmentally conscious as well as what goes into the ingredient, food safety, etc. requirements into the chemicals that our cleaners as well as technicians use so that it doesn't affect the end user in terms of the smell, in terms of the taste. So I think we are making actually our own eco-friendly chemicals, and I think when we do jobs like painting, etc., we always look towards things that are more air purifying, reducing the traditional paints materials that I think most incumbent vendors would use. But of course, there's always a trade-off between cost and efficacy, right? So I think increasingly we are going down that direction of sustainability, and I think increasingly in Singapore at least, there is a concern from customers to use the right products for the environment and for their bases as well. So we are encouraged by that.
Okay. And earlier we were talking about, ultimately it's about your customers, right? But with things like automation, AI, all these things reshaping industries, how does Nimbus strike a balance between leveraging technology and maintaining that human touch in service delivery?
That's a great question. So increasingly, we see technology as, or AI, as you mentioned, is a hot topic right now, as the ability to automate some tasks away, not jobs, right? So tasks that are, let's say, repetitive, that keeps coming up in an FAQ. For example, we use different software solutions like AI to, answer some frequently asked questions that doesn't load up the human with too much workload so that they can focus on truly the problem that is at hand. We use AI in our WhatsApp hotline as well to just consolidate, some of the requests made by a client and summarize it to a human so that a human can then attend to it later on and see this is the crux of the problem, this is what the client needs, this is how it needs to be solved. And I think that really helps the human give the headspace and the mental energy to tackle the problem. So I think that's how we balance between technology and human, so that it's not a robot talking to you and then just saying, I don't want to listen to you, but more of in what areas, like in customer conversations, can we use software to really just gather, consolidate, and empathize with the customer and consolidate all their requests, and then a human to take over and really give that personal touch, that handwritten note, that personalized, thoughtful service recovery, so that you feel that personal touch. So I think that's how we think of it, and at the heart of it is still the human ahead of the algorithm. But ideally, it's not entirely human-centric, because I think a business would really fail if it's not efficient or keeping up with the times because of the human labor shortage we face here in Singapore as well.
Okay, looking further afield, how do you see this space, the facility management and home services sector, evolving? Bold predictions?
I think that we see a lot of automation, a lot of transition to a lot of robotics, a lot of AI helping out with certain inquiries, as I mentioned, that would ease human tasks. But I think the future of cleaning will look a lot like cleaning, in the sense that you will see, frontline workers maybe commanding a higher salary, because we are also pushing for a higher minimum wage here in Singapore, which is the right thing to do. But at the same time, being enabled by robotics and more productive equipments and tools that would help lesser people do the same job or be more effective in their jobs. And I think that's a good thing for the crew and a good thing for us as we cope with an aging population. So I think the future of cleaning will look a lot more of a hybrid pairing, between automation and human. But I think the human role and I think the role of frontline work is still relevant to us, and hopefully it would be also higher paying and more rewarding for us doing it.
And in terms of facilities management?
I think we would increasingly see the continuation of smart IoTs. I think we will see the facilities, as you mentioned, a role in Singapore at least for productivity. I think as a country, I think we've done well in managing our remote work and balance between, like time spent at home and in office. I think that will continue, and I still see the relevance of the workspace and the offices and commercial spaces. So I think we'll see more of that smart IoT, more of those robotics going around, and again, like leaner teams that would be able to do the same output, singing in song together with automation and robotics.
Fareed, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think ultimately cleaning cannot be disrupted, because at the end of the day, it's a human touch, right? You still need a human being to do the cleaning itself. But the purpose of technology or even the AI in the future is really to just enhance human decision making, whether or not it's the cleaner on the ground or the operation executive, the middle managers. It's really just to aid their decision making and actually to capture data for us to provide ultimately the better experience to customers.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for sharing so much about this facility management and home services space. They are Daniel Thong, founder and CEO of Nimbus. Thank you, Daniel. And Fareed Mustakin, product lead and director of the company. Thank you both.
Thank you.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.